What's going on, Party Chat Sports? Today we're going to be doing a Cowboys mock draft. We're actually going to be doing two, using two different simulators here. One, because I like PFF, but two, they put it behind a stupid paywall. So thanks, PFF. Thanks a lot. You ruined one of your best products and best draws to your site. Anyways, before we get started, a little bit of Cowboys breaking news. It's not really breaking news now, especially once this video gets released. But little trade action. A little trade action. A little Joe Milton of the Patriots gets traded to the Cowboys for a fifth-round pick the Cowboys gave up. I didn't see which pick it was. I imagine it's either their normal fifth-round pick or one of the comp picks that we got this year. I think we had 2 or 3 fifth-round comp picks. I think maybe 2. I can't remember. Anyways, and in return we get Joe Milton and a 7th-round pick. Honestly, this is a good trade for a couple reasons. One, we don't have a backup. Well, the only backup is Will Greer. So, not exactly a backup you think you can win games with. Cooper Rush is now in Baltimore. 2, Joe Milton is under contract for another 3 years, I believe I saw. He's owed $3.5 million over those 3 years, so super, super cheap. So being as he went to Michigan and then Tennessee, got to see him up close. I know he had a lot of hype coming into college. Didn't really live up to it. Transferred to Tennessee. He got the start, but he still didn't live up to it. Just a lot of inaccuracies. He's got all the arm power in the world. He just, uses it all the time when he only needs about 60%. So I think it's a good trade. One, because he's cheap. 2, because he definitely has, tools and he has potential. He'll definitely be an exciting player to come into the game and see if he can help you win if something were to happen to Dak. Whereas Cooper Rush, I mean, it was like he was, he could run the offense, but he wasn't beating you. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't doing anything to make you afraid. Joe Milton will still test the defense. If they're going to let him throw the ball, he'll take his shots and he'll throw the ball down the field. So I think it's a good trade. Again, much better than the Trey Lance trade because he was owed so much more money, and we gave up I think a 4th for him. What was it? Yeah, there's a 4th. And honestly, if Joe Milton does nothing but just sit and be the backup, like that's fine. We were probably going to draft a quarterback this year, anyways. Probably would have been with a 5th or 6th, 7th round pick. I don't think you're getting anybody this year in those rounds that is better than what Joe Milton could be. So, good trade. Again, don't get your hopes up. People are already saying, "Oh, Dak better watch out. Dak's losing his job." Like he had one good game, Joe Milton, with the Patriots. It's like the last game of the year. Remember, he was not good in college. Like it wasn't that he was good, but he wasn't like that. He was pretty much not good. The main reason he was drafted was because of the tools, the physicality. He's a large, powerful quarterback, big athlete. That's why he was drafted, not because he was a successful college quarterback. So let's slow the brakes again. He's not taking Dak's job. I will say he has the best potential of any recent backup quarterback that we've had to be a successor to Dak. Obviously, it's pretty much a throw up between him and Trey Lance. So you can debate who's better, but again, just a solid backup. Hopefully, he turns out to be something. If he doesn't, then it was cheap. Doesn't really matter, and it's fun. Like I said, most importantly, it's fun. All right, I probably spent too much time on that. Let's go ahead and get into the draft here. Like I said, we're using the PFF mock draft simulator for this first one. This will be Cowboys. 3 rounds. We did a full first round as a group already. I've done a full first round on my own. Gills had a 1 or 2 top 10s, I believe, and we'll continue to have more as we get closer to the draft. The draft is in 2 or 3 weeks now, so getting close. Time to start to see some of the consensus picks on some of these teams, as people are starting to piece together and find out like who's valuable where and what teams are interested in what. So again, you guys know how the draft works. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, let's launch it. And just real quick, let's go ahead. Dang, dude, this is tough. All right. With the first pick, Cam Ward. I think that's probably the consensus now. Travis Hunter at 2. That's interesting. I would rather have Abdul Carter myself, but Travis Hunter goes 2. Abdul Carter 3. Armand Membu at 4. Genti at 5 to the Jags. I don't think I've seen that quite often. Jade Barron at 6. Mason Graham at 7, that's fine. Will Campbell at 8, that's fine. Tyler Warren at 9, that's rich for me, but oh well. Tetaroa McMillan, I just learned that apparently he doesn't like Tet McMillan. So Tetaroa McMillan at 10, that is tough because that's exactly who I want at 12. I haven't seen really the Bears going wide receiver at 10. I don't see why they wouldn't, especially not bringing back Keenan Allen. I'm pretty sure he's still a free agent, so I could see it, I guess. I hope that doesn't happen. Like I said, I would like him on the Cowboys. And then Jihad Campbell to the Niners. All right. Big bummer because, as I said, I want to take Tetaroa McMillan here. Now, there's a couple things we can do. Will Johnson. We desperately need corners. The problem being with Will Johnson is he's coming off injury. He didn't test at the combine. I don't even know if he did a pro day. And we're already having injury issues with our corners now. And so, do you want to add another, injured corner? I imagine he'll be fine by the time, camp rolls around and the season rolls around. But it's always, one of those risky things, and it's unfortunate if he comes in and then tweaks it, and then your new number 12 pick can't even play. So I still consider it. Luther Burden is another one I like here. There's kind of a debate on whether he would be a player that should be drafted this high because he's a little bit of a unique build. He's not the fastest. He's not the biggest. He is a very good receiver, though. I think a lot of it has to do with some of the quarterback play they had in Missouri. It wasn't the best, but it also wasn't terrible. Like, it was still a college quarterback throwing them the ball. Not the worst college quarterback you've ever seen, but definitely not one of the best. I don't know if I love taking him at 12. If we were to, trade down or whatever, if he happened to fall in the second, like that's more where I would like it. I still think about it right here at 12, but again, we'll see. A lot of people have Matthew Golden going here. Same kind of deal with him. He ran the 4.29, but a lot of people are questioning whether that's a legit time or not because there's not a single person who says he plays that fast. And if you watch like Isaiah Bond on Texas, he looks faster. He looks faster than Golden. And even though he ran slower at the combine, on the field, Bond is much faster. And so, if you're drafting him because of that 4.29, I would be wary. Now, Golden did start to really pop at the end of the season, which is which was awesome. And that's when I first started noticing him. I was like, yes, I would love to have Golden on my team. But that was at the time when I thought, hey, maybe this guy could be a second, third round pick. Do I like him at 12? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think he's that fast. So, like, even if he is that fast and that was legit 40 time for him, he doesn't play that fast on the field. And so, you're not getting a burner. He's a route runner. He's a good catcher, which is great to have. I mean, that's great to be, of course. But I don't know if it's worth a 12. Again, it's just such a high pick here. I'm kind of rambling on, so let me just get to what we're gonna pick. Kenneth Grant, maybe Mike Green. I used to take him a lot. Some off the field issues. Same with James Pierce. I don't know if you want to go safety this high. Donovan Ezraku. I don't know if I would do that either. Emeka Ibuka. Again, I think a good wide receiver. I don't think he's nothing special, which I will say for the Cowboys, since we have CeeDee Lamb, we don't need this receiver to be the number one guy. He doesn't have to be the star on the team. He needs to be a good second wide receiver. And so I think Ibuka can be that. I think Golden can be that. I think Burden can be that. Tetaroa can be that. Shoot. Okay. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna hope that it works out for us. Let's take Will Johnson here, and we'll see when we get to the second round, and I'll explain why that was my pick. Okay. Oh, there's a couple good guys here, though. Okay, so what I did here was I took Will Johnson because I think Will Johnson's good. I really like him. He was a top 10 player at the beginning of the draft process. He's fallen a little bit, mostly because of the injury. And people tend to forget. It's recency bias. Like, what have you done recently? And so he hasn't really done much. So he's starting to fall while these other guys are testing and performing and looking great. So he's starting to fall. Still a good pick. I like him there. One of the main reasons I took him, though, and I don't know if he's going to fall this far when it actually comes to draft day. I think he's probably too good. We'll see what happens. Again, it all depends on who's available when teams come up, obviously. So if a team needs a wide receiver or a running back or whatever position, who's there? Is there a guy that they like? Maybe there's not. Maybe they desperately need a wide receiver, but there's not one that they like, so they go take the best defensive end or whatever. So it all depends on, obviously, these guys are going to fall much different than what they do in the simulation. But the reason I am okay with not going first-round wide receiver if Tetaroa is not there is I really like Jaden Higgins. He's a big wide receiver. I think he would be great as a wide receiver, too. He could probably be wide receiver 1 on some teams. I really think he's that good. Tested really great, had a great season. I like him. I think there's a very good chance he goes in the first round, maybe towards the end of the first round, in the 20s or 30s. The couple 30s that there are. But if he's here in the second, like, if we don't get Tetaroa, I'm fine with waiting until later because Jaden Higgins I really like, and even like further down the list, he's usually going in the third round on PFF, but it's Jalen Noel. I think it's how he pronounces it. Looks like Noel to me, but anyways, also out of Iowa State, insane testing, good production. I think either of those would be still good, exciting picks later in the draft if you can't get Tetaroa in the round 1. Tyleek would make this a little bit harder. I think he's really good. That would be a good pick to have if we did get wide receiver in the first round. But how this is playing out now, we're going to go Jaden Higgins here at wide receiver. I really like him. Honestly, there's some days I do one of these almost every day. there's some days I really want to go Tetaroa and Jaden Higgins, or just stack some of these wide receivers and just make the offense crazy. It's probably not smart, but it would be a lot of fun. All right, pick 76 here. Now we're in the third round. I really like Alfred Collins here. I think he would be a really good player. Depending, again, this is so I think a couple things, right? Okay, so you got to look at what the Cowboys did in their limited free agency and trades that they made. Most of the free agents that they have signed were or traded for were defensive ends, edges, edge help. They got linebacker. Got a couple linebackers. Got a corner. Got a couple running backs, and so I think if you were doing it smart, or if you wanted to take hints from the positions that they did sign, you could make the inference that the positions that are still in need that they couldn't get anyone in are probably the positions that they will target in the draft. And so that can kind of help you sculpt like what positions you want to take, whether it's for the Cowboys. They signed a couple running backs, so this one kind of goes against what I just said. But they signed a couple running backs, but running backs still in need. None of the running backs they signed are stopping you from drafting a running back. So I think running back here in any of the first three rounds. I'm only going first round if it's Genty. I'm only going first round if it's Genty, and I'm only if you could get me Genty and Higgins in the second round, I'm sold. I'm sold. I'm sold 10 times out of 10. Give me that. If you can't go Genty, I'm out on first round running backs. Second round, there's a ton of them there that I'm good with. Third round, ton of them there. Wide receiver is a big need, of course, and so you can get that 1, 2, 3. There's probably some even later in the fourth, and later that you can get. And again, that's not a position that was addressed in free agency or trades, and so I expect that to be addressed in the draft. Defensive line, defensive interior, like Alfred Collins, not really addressed yet. So we'll see what happens there. I think this is a great draft to get at least one defensive line, then hopefully two. Good year to double dip on defensive line. Good year to double dip on running back. Good year to double dip even on wide receiver if you can make that and need that. So with all that being said, I really like Alfred Collins here. I really like Jalen Noel, or Noel, as we talked about earlier. RJ Harvey, DJ Giddens. I like DJ Giddens. I know a lot of people like Jalen Royals. Personally, I like Devin Neal as well. Damian Martinez has been getting good hype as well. There's a lot of good players still. Isaiah Bond, again, I think he's faster. He plays faster than what he tested. I want to go offense because it's more exciting, right? And so, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go DJ Giddens. I like offense. Give me offense. We spent a first round pick on defense, so give me the next two on offense. I really like Alfred Collins, but give me DJ Giddens here. I really like Giddens. I think he'll be good. It's a toss up in the third round how these picks are playing out in the simulator, whether you want Giddens, whether you want Harvey, whether you want Devin Neal. I usually pick Giddens. So I like this. I like this draft. Will Johnson in the first, Jaden Higgins in the second, DJ Giddens in the third. I normally get Tetaroa, and if Tetaroa is there at 12, that's going to be my pick every time. Didn't work out that way this time. We'll see what happens the next mock. Jaden Higgins, I really like him though. Like I like him so much that I even sometimes question if I want to pick Tetaroa when he's there in the first. I really like Higgins. He's not a consolation prize, I don't think. I think he could be great. And then DJ Giddens, of course. There's so many running backs in this draft. I really don't. It's going to be hard to get a bad one. And even still, if you take DJ Giddens in the third, you could still get. I mean, we still have 2 fifth-round picks, a sixth. and 2/7. There will be other running backs that will fall that far just because of how many there are. So you could even double up at running back later on. Maybe you don't think DJ Giddens is pretty fast. He's not the fastest. So maybe you want to get like a burner or a pass catcher or some other kind of running back. You can do that later. But this is a pretty good mock. I would be happy with this. But let's go ahead and flip over to the other simulator. Reshare my screen. Got a deodorant ad right on the front. It's crazy. All right. Let's get started. So, Cowboys, and this will be something interesting that we'll have to visit at another time, maybe during the off season. But take a look at this mock draft simulator. You can draft previous years. You can even draft the future. So we'll have to check that out. You can see you change the draft order as well. Let's do fast so we're not taking forever. Standard the trading. So this one does allow trades. This one does allow all 7 rounds. I believe one of the main differences. I don't know this for sure because it doesn't say. But normally the mock draft simulators are based on big boards. PFFs is obviously based on the PFF big board. Although if you had the paid version, at least you used to be able to, you could switch between whether you wanted to react or rank players based on the PFF board or the consensus board, which takes rankings from multiple different sources, multiple different people, and kind of compiles them based on average ranks. I think this one is probably either they have their own or it's the consensus. Either way, it'll be different than PFF, so the rankings will be different, and you'll see players going earlier, later, etc., than they did in the PFF one. Also, the trades, we will probably get offered a couple trades. They're usually pretty generous on the trades, I will say. I have a hard time turning them down if it's like I drop down 5 or 10 spots and get an extra third or fourth or even fifth, because I think there's a lot of good players in this draft that can be had in the later rounds, second, third, fourth, fifth. So we'll see what happens. We'll get into it right now. I believe the start button's probably hidden behind all these ads. Oh no, it's up at the top. Okay. Usually when I'm on my phone, it's hidden behind the ads. So let's go ahead and get started. Cam Ward went first. We'll just take a quick peek. I don't want this. This is a terrible trade. So Cam Ward again 1. Jalen Walker 2. That's absolutely insane. Shedeur Sanders 3. Probably not going to happen. And again, these get updated. They're not always super up to date. I imagine this one is not up to date. I don't think the Giants are still going to be interested in Shedeur. Maybe they are. Maybe I'm wrong. But having Russ and Jameis Winston feels like a bridge to get you to next year, because I think if you spend your third overall pick on Shedeur, like he's coming to play. He's coming to start. He's not coming to sit, which obviously Russ isn't the best quarterback in the world anymore. Well, I don't know that he ever was, but he's not a great quarterback anymore. So I don't know if that would scare you away from picking Shedeur, but I still don't think that you would make those moves if you planned on taking Shedeur here. Membu to the Patriots again, that's fine. Mason Graham to the Jags, that happens a lot. That's fine. Genty to the Raiders, that's pretty common. That's fine. Will Campbell to the Jets. I'd be curious to see what Gil has to say about that. I don't think that's what he wants, but really going offensive line isn't too bad. It's exciting. No. Normally it works out pretty well, depending on who else is there. Jade Barron to the Panthers. I don't know about that one, but that's fine. Abdul Carter to the Saints. That is such an easy pick. If he falls to 9, the Cowboys better jump up there. If he falls to 9, there's going to be the Saints could get a haul, whatever team. If he falls after 2 or 3, like if let's say he falls past 4, which I think is unlikely, the Jags or whatever team, the Raiders, whoever he falls to right here, like you could get an absolute bag, I think, for Abdul Carter. Someone would come up and get him. Travis Hunter to the Bears, that's, again, about as far as I've seen him fall. Kelvin Banks to the 49ers. This one started off really interesting, but we've got our guy here, Tedoroy McMillan. So I already spent too much time talking about it in the last one. So without further ado, let's get him on the team. And let's see what happens in the second round. Here we go. So, look at all these picks they're offering to come take our spot. And now, see, how can I turn this down? I drop down 4 spots. I get a third. I get an extra 7th. And obviously, it won't take place in this draft, but realistically, you're giving me a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th next year. This is an insane trade that no one would ever make. But if they did, I would immediately say yes. Should I or should I not? Because it's not. I'm gonna do it because we're having fun. So accept. Boom. Can we pick a little bit later? Again, some more offers. No, no, no. All right. So who's on the board here? Tyleek. Again, I talked about that earlier. That would be a good one. Quinshawn. I like Quinshawn. I think if you watch our running back rankings, he's more of an every down back, in my opinion. And compared to like a Travion or Dylan Sampson, who they got a lot of carries in college too, but they're more of a home run hitter, in my opinion. Not that that's the only thing they can be, but Quinshawn was more like give him the rock, give him the rock, give him the rock. Okay, Travion get in there and he hits the home run. So I do like Quinshawn. Alfred Collins, again, I like Darian Porter. He had a really good combine. Elijah Arroyo is interesting as well. Cam Scattaboo, of course. It's my guy. Jalen Noel or Noel. Omar Norman Lott I'm interested in. So let's go back up to the top here. I think right here, I'd probably take Tyleek with the way this one fell right now. Let's go ahead and take Tyleek here. He was getting a lot of first-round hype. He still could find his way into the end of the first round. I imagine it's probably pretty likely he falls into the second, just with how many good defensive tackles there are. See, look at this haul. I'd be dumb not to take that in real life, but we'll reject that one. Jake Besh, I think is how he pronounces his last name, is another guy that's a lot of people are interested in. Again, Elijah Arroyo's here, which would be interesting. Isaiah Bond for the speed. Cam Scattaboo. Oh, man. I could take my dude Cam Scattaboo here. Dylan Sampson is way down here. DJ Giddens still coming up. What did we trade for? We traded for, so we have 76, and then we have 98, which is in the 4th, which is a good trade for the Cowboys because they don't have a 4th. Traded it for frickin' Mingo. And so we'll get to have another pick here shortly. I'm not a huge Besh fan. Arroyo would be interesting. Tight end's not really that much of a need, especially when there's great players still on the board. Oh, give me Dylan Sampson. I really want to pick Cam Scattaboo, but I'd be doing myself a disservice because I ranked Dylan Sampson higher than Cam Scattaboo in the running back top 10 that we did, Dylan and I and Cameron. Shoot. Give me Cam freaking Scattaboo, dude. He's a dog. He's a dog, all right? He carried ASU to the playoffs. Absolute fantastic production. Bounces off tackles. Makes people miss. He's not going to break away from the pack, but he's fast enough. He's explosive enough. He's quick enough to find the hole and shoot through it, run over guys, bounce off would-be tacklers. He is a great, great running back. Again, not the home run hitter, that you would hope for, but that's not the end all be all. He's gonna get you yards. He's gonna be hard to bring down, and I think he can be in there every down. He's actually one of the better receiving, if not the best receiving, running back in the draft out of all of the running backs based on production last year. And so that's a very underrated part of his game that people look over because all they see is some white fullback when he's really much smaller than most fullbacks that people like to compare him to, and probably much, much quicker. All right. Omar Norman Lott, again, I mentioned him earlier. That would be interesting. Don't. I mean, if it's gonna fall like this, if it's gonna fall like this, never done this before, but we're doing it now. Dylan's holy running back duo, holy running back duo. Give me that. Actually, that'd be nuts. Give me Cam Scadaboo every down back, three down back, whatever it's called, and then throwing Dylan Sampson out there, change of pace back. Let him come in there, and he's no slouch either. All right, he's no slouch either. He can break tackles. He had good broken tackles as well. He can run through the arm tackles. He's a little bit smaller, and so that's a little bit downside. But give me the change of pace. He had great production running through SEC defenses, right? And so he's not one of these running backs where it's like, oh, we went to a smaller school, and maybe that's why they had such good production, or this, that, whatever. He was pretty much Tennessee's whole offense this year. They were a college football playoff team. Um, he is a good running back as well. That duo would be something nasty. That duo would be something nasty. And so I'm fine with doing it. Let's be interesting. Let's have fun. Bashal Tootin here, Tootin. That one's cool because he's also a burner. That would have been interesting as well if we had passed on Dylan Sampson with our last pick, but we obviously didn't. So let's see who else is available. I'm not as familiar with some of these guys. Obviously, I know the RJ Harvey and Bashal Tootin. We did a video on these. I think Kobe Bryant out of Kansas. People like him as well. That could be a good pick. And it's looking like that's what we need to do. Kyle McCord would start to be interesting later in these rounds if we didn't just trade for Milton. Let's go ahead and do Kobe Bryant. Kobe. I'm not going to say I know too much about Kobe. Once you get into these later rounds, especially because I don't use this mock draft simulator as much as PFF, I don't usually get into these later rounds as often, so I don't. And obviously they are later round picks, and so really what you're hoping for is to find a contributor in some way once you get down into these lower rounds. It's a good pick if they play in any capacity. A lot of times you're just drafting these guys, and they may not make the team. Maybe they make practice squad. If you find even a special team starter, if you find a actual starter, once you get into these later rounds, that is a fantastic pick. And so, with that being said, though, some of the names here are going to start to not be as familiar. With that being said, who do we want here? We're getting pretty far down here, and we've actually got a lot of picks. So, I think, again, forgive me for not knowing all of the names here. Just based on position, I think taking the tackle here would be pretty good. You could even double up on corner, hit a safety real quick. Jalen Reed here, get another tackle. Could still use some linebacker help. Can't convince me to go running back again, but it would be funny. Um, let's just go ahead and take this Holland Pierce tackle out of Rutgers. We're up again. Could take a tight end here. I'm not as familiar with these guys. I don't usually pick tight end. There was one time I got an extra third, I think it was, and I picked Arroyo, which would be awesome. Could still do it here. Could pick another tackle. Again, these are mostly going to be depth. Maybe move them to guard. Maybe move them to whatever. Still got some linebackers here. What do we want to do? Let's go ahead and take, just to be interesting, I guess, let's take a tight end here. We'll take Mitchell Evans. National championship team. Didn't win the championship, but they were in the championship. Hopefully you're pretty good. Your team's pretty good. We'll just trust that they had a good tight end on the team. Joshua Gray here, interior offensive line would be good. We got tackle, but now we can get some guard help. Willie Lampkin. People talk about because he's good. The problem with Willie Lampkin is he is very small for even a center. He's 5'10", like 270 or something like that. Dude, I'm way bigger than that. I don't know if you can tell from the camera. Probably can. But I'm 6'5", 300. So I would dwarf this man. I know. My name should be up here, but it's not. It's just funny, you see some of these like combines, at least myself, see these combine measurements and you see talking about on TV, they'll be like, oh, this tight end's huge. He's 6'4", 260. I'm like, dude, I was 6'4", 260 in high school. Anyways, that's probably making fun of myself more than it is hyping myself up. Let's go ahead and take Joshua Gray here. A lot of not so exciting picks here at the end of the draft. Again, I've seen some exciting picks before. This one didn't work out as well. The one that I had this morning was an absolute banger of a mock draft. I wish we could have replicated it here. This one's still interesting with the top, the first 4 picks that we got. Super, super interesting. Would be super fun. That's just not the way it worked out here. Who do we want here? We're almost to the end. We could get some more edge help, get some more linebacker help again. Let's just go ahead and take edge. We're in the 7th, man. Again, like I said, if these are contributors in any way, that's a fire pick. Like Riley Leonard, and if we didn't have a quarterback, would be, I think, a decent pick. Khalil Mullings, again, is a running back. If you wanted to double up with a later pick, that would be an interesting one. Brady Cook, here's Luther Burden. Luther Burden's quarterback. I talked about him earlier. Let's just take another wide receiver. Let's take Caden Prather out of Maryland. Can never have too much depth. I've heard Jack Nelson. I've seen him mocked later to the Cowboys a lot. Let's go ahead and just take him. Again, this is more picks than we have because of that trade. And so it's a little bit generous. This is a lot more players than we have, obviously, with the trade. And then we also traded away a 5th round. But we did gain a 7th. So we didn't really lose a pick as far as quantity of total picks goes, but it's just going to be later. But I really like the top of this draft. So Tetaroa is my favorite choice at 12. If he's there, I would find it very, very hard to pass him up. So we got him. We got Tyleek, a really good defensive lineman who could go in the 1st round. I mentioned earlier, I think he'll fall into the 2nd just because there are a lot of good defensive linemen. So that would be a good pick as well, especially with who was available at the time. Cam Scadaboo, who I think is a really good running back on his own, and then paired up with Dylan Sampson, I think that could be an insane running back room. I think that could be really good. Kobe Bryant, who is I've seen a lot of people talk about him as I don't know if he's necessarily a sleeper, but one of those later picks who could have some good production and turn into a starter. And then after that, most of these are depth pieces that, to be fair, to be honest, not as familiar with them. I can't really say whether they're great picks or good picks or bad picks because I just don't know. And again, a good pick in these later rounds is a contributor in any fashion, whether that's special teams, depth pieces who can come in and start if they need to. Um, like that is a great pick when you start getting into those rounds. So that's going to do it. I don't know which one of the two I like better. Probably this one. We'll see how it works in real life. The freaking Cowboys always, especially with the second round pick, in the second round, it seems like they always take some like shot just completely out of left field. Like, who's the craziest like boom or bust guy we could possibly find? Like, they find some weird dudes in the second round and just take a chance on people. And in this draft, I think that's where the bread and butter is, just the second and even third rounds. So I really hope they don't just like waste the second round pick on some flyer like maybe he'll be good or maybe he'll be one of the worst players I've ever seen, which is what they normally pick in the second round. So ideally, they play this one smart. We have too many holes on offense and defense to be wasting picks on these, like I said, like completely out of left field players. So I think Tyleek would be a good one. Cam Scadaboo, don't say all these picks this would be a good draft. So we'll see what happens. I'll probably make one as we closer. That will be more of a prediction on what I think the Cowboys will do. This is what I would do. We'll have more group mock drafts as we get closer. Probably some more individuals for the Jets, the Steelers. We're hoping to see if we can get a Vikings one on a Cam. So stay tuned for those. And then the draft will be here before you know it. We'll see how right or how wrong that we were. And then we'll get into some unfortunate offseason downtime, but all that means is we're inching closer and closer to the NFL season. So that's it for today. Please make sure to go check out all the other videos that we have up on the feed. You can find us at on TikTok for now. Ban may be coming back this weekend if a sale doesn't go through, but we'll talk about that later. But for now, you can find us on TikTok at Party Chat Sports. You can find us on YouTube or wherever else you get your podcasts at Party Chat Sports. Find us on Twitter or X at Party Chat Sports. Until next time, peace. Go Cowboys.